The morning sun rose over New Busan colony like it did every other day. Children walked to school with bags on their backs. Parents kissed them goodbye at the gates of Starlight Academy. Nobody knew that this would be the last normal morning they would ever have. New Busan was a peaceful place. 2 million humans lived there, farming the rich soil and building their dreams far from Earth. The colony sat on the edge of human space, close to the territory of an alien empire called the Dreth Dominion. The Dreth were powerful. They had conquered 40 species before. They looked at humanity and saw nothing special. Just another weak civilization to crush. Overlord Varakan sat on his throne on the Dreth homeworld. He was tired of humans expanding their territory. He wanted to send them a message written in blood and fire. Target their civilians. He ordered his fleet commander, hit their population centers. Make them understand that we are their masters now. The fleet commander hesitated. Should we not attack their military bases first? Vraken laughed. No, attack their homes. Attack their schools. When they see their offspring dead, they will fall to their knees and beg for mercy. Every species does. 20 Dreth warships jumped into the space above New Busan. They did not attack the small defense station orbiting the planet. They flew past the military outposts on the northern continent. Instead, they aimed their weapons at the cities below. The first bomb hit the marketplace in the capital. The second hit a hospital. The third hit Starlight Academy. Mireille was 7 years old. She was sitting in her classroom when the ceiling exploded. Fire and smoke filled the air. She heard her friends screaming. She tried to run, but the floor was gone. The last thing she saw was the blue sky through the broken roof. 1,847 children died that day. Some died instantly. Others died slowly, trapped under burning rubble while rescue teams tried to reach them. Parents ran through the streets, screaming the names of their sons and daughters. Many found only ashes. The Dreth recorded everything. They broadcast the attack across their empire as entertainment. Soldiers cheered as buildings collapsed. Officers toasted each other as the death count climbed. They had taught the humans a lesson. On Earth, Lieutenant Minji Seo sat in the intelligence center. Her job was to monitor alien communications. When she intercepted the Dreth broadcast, her blood turned to ice. She watched the footage of children running and dying. She listened to the Dreth commentary, translated by the computer. "Look at them scatter," a Dreth officer said on the recording. "Like insects, small ones die so easily." Another replied with laughter. Minji's hand shook as she prepared her report. The attack was not an accident. It was not a mistake. The Dreth had specifically chosen to kill children. They believed this would make humanity surrender. Admiral Taiho Kang received the report in his office. He was 63 years old, a veteran of 3 wars. He had seen death many times, but when he read the casualty list, something broke inside him. His granddaughter's name was on that list, Yoonbi. She was 8 years old. She had wanted to be a pilot like her grandfather. For 10 minutes, Admiral Kang sat alone in silence. His hands trembled. Tears fell down his weathered face. Then, slowly, his grief transformed into something else. Something cold and hard and terrible. He made a single call. "Summon the United Earths Council. Emergency session. Now." Within hours, every leader of humanity gathered in the Great Chamber. They had all seen the footage. They had all read the reports. Some were crying. Others were pale with shock. But in every eye, Admiral Kang saw the same thing he felt in his own heart. Rage. Pure, burning rage. "They think we are like the others," Admiral Kang said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "The 40 species they conquered before us. They think we will cry, negotiate, and surrender. They think killing our children will break our spirit." He paused, looking at each face in the chamber. "They are wrong." The chamber was silent. Every ear waited for his next words. "The Dreth have made a terrible mistake. They have shown us exactly what kind of monsters they are. They laughed while our children burned. They celebrated while parents screamed. They believe they can do this and face no consequences. Admiral Kong placed his hands on the podium. His eyes were cold now, empty of everything except purpose. We will show them the consequences. We will show the entire galaxy what happens when you harm human children. There will be no negotiation. There will be no peace treaty. There will be no mercy. A council member raised her hand. Admiral, what exactly are you proposing? Total war, Kong replied. Not for territory, not for resources. We will wage war until the Dreth Dominion no longer exists. Until every species in this galaxy understands one simple truth. He leaned forward, and his voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire chamber. You can attack our worlds. You can destroy our ships. You can kill our soldiers. We will fight you, and we may even forgive you someday. But if you harm our children, we will hunt you to the end of the universe. We will tear down everything you have built. We will erase you from history. This is not anger. This is not revenge. This is a promise. The vote was unanimous. Every hand rose. Every voice said yes. That night, shipyards across human space received new orders. Factories switched to war production. Retired soldiers received calls asking them to return to service. Millions answered. On New Busan, rescue workers were still pulling small bodies from the ruins of Starlight Academy. A memorial wall was being built. 1,847 names would be carved into black stone. The galaxy had seen many wars, but it had never seen what was coming. It had never seen what humans could do when their children were murdered. The Dreth wanted to teach humanity a lesson in fear. Instead, they had awakened something ancient and terrible. Something that would not stop until the lesson was taught in reverse. 3 weeks had passed since the attack on New Busan. The Galactic Concord, an assembly of over 200 alien species, watched humanity with great interest. They had seen this story before. A young civilization attacked by the Dreth, a period of grief and anger. Then surrender. Negotiation, submission. It always ended the same. Way Ambassador Keleth was chosen to deliver the Dreth's terms to humanity. He was old for his kind, with gray scales covering his tall body. He had negotiated the surrender of 6 species in his career. Humans would be the 7th. The terms were simple. Humanity would give up 3 colony worlds. They would pay tribute to the Dreth Dominion for 50 years. In exchange, the Dreth would stop their attacks. Keleth thought the humans would be grateful. After all, the Dreth were being generous. They could have demanded much more. Captain Hannah Yoon was assigned to escort Ambassador Keleth to Earth. She commanded the battleship Wrath of Terra, a name given to the ship just days after the attack. Hannah was 34 years old. Her nephew, a boy named Jiwoo, had been a student at Starlight Academy. His body was never found. When Keleth boarded her ship, Hannah greeted him with cold politeness. She showed him to his quarters and assigned guards to watch him at all times. Is this protection necessary? Keleth asked. I am a diplomat. The guards are not for your protection, Hannah replied. They are to protect you from my crew. Several of them lost family on New Busan. Keleth did not understand. In his experience, defeated species always treated Dreth ambassadors with respect and fear. But as he walked through the ship, he saw something different in human eyes. They did not look afraid. They looked at him like hunters looking at prey. During the journey, Keleth tried to explain the Dreth position to Captain Yoon. He sat across from her in the meeting room. Speaking in a calm and reasonable voice, "You must understand," he said. The attack was meant to prevent greater bloodshed. If your people had simply accepted our dominance from the beginning, no one would have died. The children's deaths are tragic, yes, but they served a purpose. Now humanity knows its place. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles turned white. You truly don't understand what you've done, she said quietly. I understand perfectly, Keleth replied. We have shown strength. Your government will negotiate and peace will follow. This is how the galaxy works. Hannah stood up and walked to the window. Stars streamed past as the ship traveled through space. Ambassador, Let me tell you how humans work. When you attack our soldiers, we fight back. When you attack our cities, we rebuild them. When you kill our people, we mourn them and move forward. But when you kill our children, something changes. We don't negotiate. We don't forgive. We don't stop. She turned to face him. Your overlord made the worst mistake in your empire's history. And soon, very soon, he will understand that. Keleth felt a strange chill run through his body. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never felt before when dealing with a conquered species. Doubt. Meanwhile, across human space, the war machine was waking up. Every shipyard worked day and night. Workers slept in shifts, building warships faster than anyone thought possible. Civilian cargo ships were brought in and fitted with weapons and armor. Mining vessels became troop carriers. Passenger liners became hospital ships. Dr. Woojin Park worked in a military research facility on Earth's moon. He was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. His new assignment was simple: find a weakness in the Dreth. Any weakness, he studied, captured. The Dreth cells under microscopes. He ran thousands of tests. He read every piece of information humanity had gathered about Dreth biology. And slowly, he began to find answers. General Yunho Beek toured the training camps where new soldiers were preparing for war. He was surprised by what he saw. Old men who had fought decades ago stood next to young recruits. Doctors, teachers, and farmers had volunteered. They came from every nation on Earth and every colony in human space. Why did you enlist? Yunho asked a gray-haired woman who looked too old for combat. My great-grandson was on New Busan, she replied. He was 5 years old. I will fight until I cannot stand, and then I will crawl. Ambassador Keleth arrived on Earth, expecting to dictate terms. He was taken to a large room where Admiral Kong and several human generals waited for him. He began his prepared speech about the generous offer from the Dreth Dominion. Admiral Kang raised his hand, stopping him. Before you continue, Ambassador, I want to show you something. A holographic display activated. It showed the United Earth Fleet. Ships of every size filled the screen. Battleships, cruisers, carriers, destroyers. Over 4,000 warships, with hundreds more under construction. Kaloth's mouth fell open. This was impossible. 3 weeks ago, humanity had fewer than 1,000 combat vessels. How had they built so many so fast? Your terms are rejected, Admiral Kang said. Here are our terms. General Yunho Beek walked forward and handed Keleth a single document. The ambassador read it with shaking hands. His scales turned pale. This is a declaration of extinction, Keleth whispered. I guess, Admiral Kong replied. Take it to your overlord. Tell him what is coming. Tell him that he killed 1,847 children. Tell him that was the last mistake the Dreth Dominion will ever make. Keleth looked around the room at the human faces. He saw no anger, no hate, only cold, absolute determination. The Galactic Concord will not allow this, he said desperately. Other species will intervene. Admiral Kong smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Ambassador, you have conquered 40 species. Did any of them fight like this? Did any of them refuse to surrender? Did any of them look at your empire and say, we will destroy you completely? Keleth could not answer. No, Kong continued, they did not, because none of them had their children murdered and mocked. Go home, Ambassador. Tell your people what you have seen. Tell them to prepare, because humanity is coming. And we will not stop until the lesson is taught. 2 months after the attack on New Busan, the United Earth Fleet jumped into Dreth space. There were no warnings, no final demands, no chances for negotiation. The humans came in silence. They came with fire. Captain Hannah Yoon stood on the bridge of the Wrath of Terra. Her ship led the first attack group. 300 vessels aimed at the outer colonies of the Dreth Dominion. She looked at the tactical display and saw enemy ships moving to intercept them. All weapons ready, her first officer reported. Good, Hannah replied. No one escapes. No military target survives. Begin the attack. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Dreth fought hard, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Human ships attacked with terrible fury. They did not retreat when damaged. They did not stop when outnumbered. They pushed forward, always forward, grinding through the Dreth defenses like a wave of steel and fire. When it was over, the Dreth outer colony was silent. Every military base was destroyed. Every warship was burning wreckage floating in space. Human marines landed on the surface and began moving through the cities. This was the part that shocked the galaxy. Normal wars were fought in space. Ships battled ships. Planets were bombed from orbit. Ground combat was rare and considered primitive. But the humans did not fight normal wars. General Yunho-beak led the ground forces personally. His soldiers moved street by street, building by building. They fought through every bunker and every defensive position. They took no shortcuts and accepted no surrenders from military personnel. Why do you do this? A captured Dreth officer asked General Beak. You could bomb us from space. Why send soldiers to die in the streets? Beak looked at him with hard eyes. Because we want you to see our faces. We want you to know that humans walked through your cities and took them. We want every Dreth soldier to know that death is coming for them personally, not from some distant ship, but from a human with a weapon who will look them in the eye. The officer had no response. Across human space, Dr. Woojin Park made a discovery that would change everything. He had spent weeks studying Dreth biology. He had examined their cells, their organs, their life cycle. And finally, he found what he was looking for. The Dreth could not reproduce everywhere. Their reproductive cycle required a specific compound in the atmosphere. This compound existed naturally on only 4 worlds in the entire galaxy, the Dreth homeworld and 3 breeding colonies. Without this compound, Dreth eggs would not develop. Adults could live anywhere, but new Dreth could only be born on these 4 worlds. Dr. Park requested a meeting with Admiral Kang. He presented his findings carefully, showing charts and data. If we destroy these 4 worlds, or even just their atmospheres, the Dreth will become sterile. They will not be able to produce offspring. Within 1 generation, their population will be entirely old adults. Within 3 generations, they will be extinct. Admiral Kang studied the data for a long time. His face showed nothing, but his mind was racing. This was a weapon more terrible than any bomb. This was the power to end an entire species without killing a single civilian directly. You are telling me, Kang said slowly, that we can finish the Dreth without mass slaughter. We let the current generation live, but ensure there are no future generations. Sir, the adults would live out their natural lives, but there would be no children, no future. The species would simply end. Kang was silent. The weight of this decision pressed down on him like a mountain. He was being asked to end billions of years of evolution, to erase a civilization from the stars, to play God with an entire species. He thought about Yunbei, his granddaughter. 8 years old. She had loved to laugh. She had dreamed of flying among the stars. Now she was ash in memory because the Dreth thought human children were acceptable targets. How many children did they kill on New Busan, Doctor? 1,847, sir. And how many more would they kill if we showed mercy? How many other species would see our weakness and think they could do the same? Dr. Park did not answer. He understood the question was not meant for him. Admiral Kang stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars, each one representing a possible world, a possible civilization watching to see what humanity would do. Prepare the fleet, he said finally. We move on the breeding worlds. The Galactic Concord sent delegation after delegation to human space. They begged, they threatened, they offered to mediate. The Dreth had suddenly become willing to negotiate. They offered full reparations. They offered territory. They offered anything humanity wanted. Admiral Kang refused every offer. Lieutenant Minji Co was sent to deliver his message to the latest group of alien diplomats. She stood before creatures from a dozen different species, all of them looking at her with fear and confusion. The Admiral says there is nothing left to discuss. she told them. The Dreth made their choice when they targeted our children. They broadcast it as entertainment. They laughed while human children burned. Now, they will live with the consequences, for however long that may be. An elderly diplomat from a species that the Dreth had conquered long ago stepped forward. Please, he said, we understand your anger. But extinction? Is that not too far? Minji looked at him with tired eyes. Ambassador, the Dreth taught us something important. They taught us that in this galaxy, weakness is punished with death. They thought we were weak. They thought killing our children would make us surrender. Instead, they showed us exactly what kind of galaxy we live in. She paused, her voice hardening. We did not make the rules, but we will play by them. Every species watching needs to understand one thing. Human children are protected by the fire of 1,000 suns. Touch them, and your species ends. This is the lesson the Dreth will teach the galaxy. Not because they chose to, but because we will make them into the example. The delegation left with nothing. Behind them, the human fleet continued its advance. 4 worlds awaited. 4 worlds that held the future of the Dreth Dominion. That future was about to be cancelled. 5 months after the attack on New Busan, the first Dreth-breeding world fell. The planet was called Vrethnor, and it held the largest population of Dreth young in the Empire. Millions of eggs were incubating in massive nursery complexes across the surface. The human fleet arrived without warning. Captain Hannah Yoon commanded the attack force. Her orders were clear. Destroy the atmospheric processing facilities that maintained the special compound needed for Dreth reproduction. Do not target civilian populations directly, Admiral Hannah said over the communication channel. The Dreth are evacuating their nurseries. They are moving their young to shelters. Let them, Admiral Kang replied. We are not here to kill their children. We are here to ensure they cannot make new ones. Destroy the facilities. Leave the civilians alone.
No.
The attack was surgical and devastating. Human ships targeted only military installations and atmospheric processors. When Dreth fighters rose to meet them, they were destroyed. When ground defenses fired, they were silenced. Within 8 hours, Vretnor's ability to support Dreth reproduction was gone forever. General Yoon-ho Beek landed with the occupation force. His soldiers secured key positions but did not enter civilian areas. They set up aid stations and distributed food and water to Dreth. Civilians who had been displaced by the fighting. A young Dreth female approached one of the aid stations. She was holding an egg container close to her chest. Her eyes were filled with terror. Please, she begged. A human soldier. My children. They need the air to live. You have killed the air. They will die inside their shells. The soldier called for a medic. Dr. Park had anticipated this problem. Human scientists had developed portable atmosphere units that could sustain Dreth eggs for transport. The young mother was directed to an evacuation shuttle. We are taking you and your eggs somewhere safe, the soldier told her. Somewhere they can hatch. The Dreth female stared at him in confusion. You are saving my children. After what we did to yours? The soldier's face hardened for just a moment, pain flickering in his eyes. Then he nodded. Don't kill children. Not even yours. But there will be no more after this generation. Your leaders made sure of that when they killed ours. The second breeding world fell 2 weeks later. The third took longer. The Dreth military had concentrated their remaining forces there, determined to protect the future of their species. General Beek led the ground assault personally. The fighting was brutal. Human soldiers pushed through defensive lines that would have stopped any other army. They took heavy casualties, but never retreated. For 3 weeks, they fought through cities and mountains and underground bunkers. When it was over, General Beek stood in the ruins of the last atmospheric processor. His uniform was torn and stained with blood, both human and Dreth. He had lost 2,000 soldiers in the assault. But the mission was complete. On the Dreth homeworld, Overlord Vraken watched his empire collapse. He had sent everything he had to stop the humans. His greatest fleets were destroyed. His breeding worlds were sterilized. His generals had failed. In desperation, he broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. His voice echoed across 1,000 worlds. Citizens of the Galactic Concord, you see what these humans are doing? They are exterminators. They are monsters. They do not want peace or justice. They want genocide. Will you stand by and let them destroy an entire species? Today, it is us. Tomorrow, it could be you. The galaxy listened, but the galaxy did not answer. One ambassador from a neutral species eventually spoke publicly. His words were broadcast alongside Vraken's plea. Overlord, you attacked human children. You broadcast their deaths as entertainment. You laughed while they burned. What did you expect? Forgiveness? Mercy? You taught humanity that the galaxy is cruel. Now they are showing you exactly how cruel they can be. This is your lesson, not ours. Captain Hannah Yoon began to struggle with what they were doing. She had wanted justice for her nephew. She had wanted the Dreth to pay for what they had done. But watching an entire species march toward extinction felt different than she had imagined. She requested a private meeting with Admiral Kong. They sat across from each other in his office. Two tired soldiers carrying the weight of terrible decisions. Sir, we have one, Hannah said quietly. The Dreth are broken. Their military is destroyed. Their breeding worlds are gone. Do we really need to continue? Do we really need to end their entire species? Admiral Kong was silent for a long moment. Then he activated a display screen. Footage began to play. Children running, buildings collapsing, screams, fire, small bodies lying still in the rubble. I watch this every morning, he said, so I never forget why we are doing this.
Ow.
Sir, I know what they did. But extinction, Captain, let me ask you something. If we stop now, if we show mercy, what message do we send? The Dreth killed our children, and we destroyed their military, but let their species survive. What will the next species think? They will think, humans are soft. Humans can be pushed. Humans will eventually forgive. He leaned forward, his old eyes burning with conviction. There are thousands of species in this galaxy. Some of them are watching right now, wondering if they could do what the Dreth did and survive. We must make sure that every single one of them knows the answer is no. This is not about revenge anymore, Captain. This is about making sure no human child ever dies like this again. Hannah could not argue. She understood the logic. She hated it, but she understood it. Admiral Kang stood and walked to the window. The fleet was assembling for the final assault. Thousands of ships, ready to move on the Dreth homeworld. He activated the broadcast system. His message would reach every corner of the galaxy. To every species watching, humanity does not seek conquest. We do not desire war. We want only to live in peace among the stars. But if you harm our children, there will be no negotiation, no surrender, no mercy. We will find you. We will break you. And we will erase you from the stars. This is not a threat. It is a promise. Humanity keeps its promises. The fleet began to move. The Dreth homeworld awaited. And with it, the final chapter of a species that had made the mistake of harming human children. 6 months after the attack on New Busan, the United Earth Fleet arrived at the Dreth homeworld. Over 6,000 warships filled the sky like a metal storm. The Dreth had nothing left to stop them. Admiral Taiho Kong looked at the planet on his view screen. This was where it had all started. Somewhere down there, Overlord Vraken had given the order to murder human children. Somewhere down there, officers had laughed while Starlight Academy burned. Now, somewhere down there, an entire species was waiting to learn its fate. Begin the operation, Admiral Kong ordered. Systematic destruction of military targets only. All civilian evacuation corridors are to remain open. The siege began. It was not a battle. The Dreth military had been broken in the previous months of fighting. Their last ships were destroyed within hours. Their ground defenses fell one by one. Human forces landed and began securing cities with cold efficiency. General Gunho Beek led his soldiers through the Dreth capital. Unlike the other campaigns, there was little fighting. Most Dreth soldiers had surrendered or fled. Civilians watched from windows as human troops marched through their streets. They did not resist. They were too shocked, too broken to resist. Overlord Vraken tried to escape. He had a private ship hidden in an underground bunker beneath his palace. While his people suffered, he planned to flee to the far edges of the galaxy and rebuild his power somewhere beyond human reach. He never made it, Captain. Hannah Yoon led the strike team that captured him. Her soldiers breached the bunker doors and flooded the corridors with precise, overwhelming force. They found the Overlord in his ship, engines warming up. Moments away from flight, Hannah grabbed him and threw him to the ground. She looked down at the creature who had ordered the deaths of so many children, including her nephew Jiwoo. Her finger rested on the trigger of her weapon. For a long moment, she considered ending it right there. One shot. Justice. But that was not the mission. She took a breath and stepped back. "Bring him," she said to her soldiers. "The Admiral wants him alive." Vraken was brought to Admiral Kong in chains. The meeting took place in the ruins of the Dreth Imperial Palace, now occupied by human forces. Around them, the once proud symbols of Dreth power lay shattered and burned. Vraken still had defiance in his eyes. "You cannot do this," he snarled. "The galaxy will condemn you. History will remember you as monsters." Admiral Kung looked at him with no emotion on his face. "You killed 1,847 children, Overlord. You broadcast their deaths as entertainment. Your officers laughed while they burned." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a cold whisper. "History will remember exactly what we want it to remember. History will remember that the Dreth Dominion attacked human children and paid the ultimate price. Every species will learn your story. Every civilization will know what happens when you harm our young. Your legacy, Overlord, will be as a warning. A lesson written in the extinction of your kind." Vraken's defiance finally cracked. Fear filled his eyes as he realized the truth. There would be no rescue. No negotiation. No escape. His species would end, and it was his fault. The execution was broadcast across the galaxy. Vraken was made to read a confession listing every crime the Dreth had committed against humanity. Then he was killed quickly and without ceremony. The message was clear: even the most powerful leader could not escape. Justice for harming human children. In the days that followed, the Dreth civilization was dismantled. Military installations were destroyed. Government buildings were occupied. The atmospheric processors on the homeworld, the last place where Dreth could reproduce, were shut down. But humanity did not slaughter the Dreth people. Civilians were moved to designated areas. Food and medical care were provided. The Dreth would be allowed to live out their natural lives in peace. They could keep their culture, their homes, their dignity. They just could not have children. General Beek oversaw the relocation operations. He walked through the refugee camps, watching Dreth families try to build new lives. An elderly Dreth male approached him. "Why do you not simply kill us all?" the old Dreth asked. "It would be faster, cleaner." Geek shook his head. "We are not like you. We do not slaughter the innocent. Your children will live. Your civilians will live. But your species chose its fate when your leaders chose to murder ours. The Dreth will end not with fire, but with silence. With empty nurseries, with no voices to carry your songs into the future." The old Dreth had no response. He simply walked away, shoulders bent under the weight of extinction. The Galactic Concord watched all of this in terrified silence. For years, they had believed the Dreth were the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Now they knew better. Humanity had dismantled the Dreth Dominion in 6 months. They had destroyed a species that had conquered 40 civilizations, and they had done it all because the Dreth made the mistake of killing human children. Captain, Hannah Yoon returned to New Busan for the memorial dedication. The colony had been rebuilt. New buildings stood where ruins had been. New families were making new homes. But some things could not be rebuilt. The memorial stood at the center of the capital. A wall of black stone held 1,847 names. In front of the wall was a statue of a human soldier, strong and fierce, cradling a child in one arm while the other raised a shield against the stars. General Beek, stood beside her as she read the names. She found Jiwoo's name near the middle of the wall. Her nephew. 7 years old. He had wanted to be a scientist. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked quietly. Beak was silent for a long time. Then he spoke. "I think that no species will ever harm a human child again. I think that every civilization in the galaxy will remember what happened to the Dreth. I think that the children who died here will be the last human children to die this way." He paused, looking at the names on the wall. "And I think that these children deserve at least that much." Hannah nodded slowly. The weight of everything they had done would stay with her forever. But looking at those names, she knew she would make the same choices again. Beneath the statue, words were carved into stone. Never again. 100 years later, the last Dreth died of old age. There were no children to mourn her, no grandchildren to carry on her memory. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries simply ended. Quietly and completely, and in all the centuries since. Across all the thousands of species in the galaxy, no one has ever harmed a human child. The lesson was learned.